Hello, David.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good, thank you.
David, so we're waiting on Dinos and then Kristen will not be joining us, is that right?
Correct.
Hey, David, Venus just called me. He said he's having trouble connecting to the Zoom.
Let's see. I don't know. I wonder if he's one of these phone numbers. Do you still have him on the phone by any chance?
I don't, but I can call him right back.
I don't know why he would be joining from the phone. Here's Tim Morrison.
Neither one of those phone numbers is Dinos's, I don't believe. Yeah, no.
He's going to try from his phone just to see if he can get it to go.
David, is it okay if I start running through administrative items since we're after 4:30?
Please let me share my screen.
Okay.
Yes, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Good evening and welcome to the March 1st, 2021 meeting of the City of Charleston's Design Review Board. My name is Erica Chase, the board's chairperson. The members of the board with us tonight are Jeff Johnston, Dinos Leolio, Michelle Smith, Aaron Stevens, and Andy Smith. Members, city staff that are present are David Meeks, Velvet Simmons, and Tori Parrish. We do not have any agenda items that have been deferred, and we do not have any recusals for the items on tonight's meeting. The order of the meeting will be as follows. David will give a project and context overview. Then the applicant will have 10 minutes to make the project presentation. I do want to mention that, while we're typically strict about the 10 minutes with it being virtual, we understand it may run a little bit over with the current protocol. If you do need time, though, well beyond 10 minutes, if you could let us know at the start of your presentation. All presenters should clearly state their name for the record. And persons affiliated with the project, designers, owners, developers, consultants should speak at this time. We will then have a time for board questions and then any public comments. Public comment period is limited to 10 minutes as well. City staff will then give recommendations. The applicant will then be able to respond or clarify to any public comments or city staff comments. This has a 5-minute time limit. Then we will enter into board discussion, motion, and vote. During the board discussion time, the applicant may only clarify inaccurate information when recognized by myself or any of the other board members, and they may only speak if asked a question specifically by the board. If you could, please silence or turn off all cell phones or other devices that may make noise during our meeting. I do want to remind everyone that comments from the public are limited to the site design and architecture of projects only. Our board does not have authority over zoning issues such as land use, building density, flooding, or traffic. So with that, I'll start on the virtual meeting protocol. David will be controlling the PowerPoint presentation, which includes everything submitted by the applicant by the deadline in accordance with the submittal requirements. Applicants will need to ask David to advance to the next slide during your presentation. Applicants, staff, and board members are required to give their name whenever speaking. The video and microphone has been disabled for all attendees. Attendees will only be given the capabilities to speak when they are called on during the public comment period. The chat and the Q&A functions have been disabled for everyone. Specific to the public comments, the applicant and the public have been required to register, indicate the project they wish to comment on, and submit any documents in advance of the meeting. Just as an in-person meeting, all applications heard today are part of a public meeting format. If you have registered and will speak during the public comment portion of the meeting, you will need to state your name and address for the record. Those members of the public that have registered will be called in order by project. Members of the public that speak are encouraged to remain in the meeting for the completion of the item they have commented on. Staff will call on the registered members of the public to speak for each project. Unregistered members of the public who raise their hand will not be called on. If a board member needs to recuse, they will be temporarily removed from the meeting and placed back in the meeting at the start of the next agenda item. David will issue meeting results, including staff comments and the board motion, to the applicant following the meeting. The results will also be posted on the city website listed on the screen. And for additional information on the screen, there is an email address and another website for further information. And I do want to remind everyone that this meeting is being recorded. So with that, we can get started with item number 1, which is 162 Seven Farms Drive, requesting preliminary approval for an addition and renovation of an existing public supermarket.
Thanks, Erica. I just have a couple slides. I think most people are familiar with the location. You can see the red dot here for 162 Seven Farms, right off of the highway, 526, and then a little closer view. This is the existing building, and the new expansion will be located right here. But with that, I'd like to hand it over to the applicant, Haley.
Thank you, David. Erica, I might just be right around 10 minutes, might go a little over, wanted to let you know. So.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you all for taking the time this evening to join us. We are seeking preliminary approval for the expansion of the existing Publix located at 162 Seven Farms Drive. I am Haley Ventura, a designer with Little. Also on the call is Tim Morrison, the project architect with Little, Steve Manley, landscape architect with Manley Design, and Dave Rubin with Publix. The proposed expansion will increase the square footage of the grocery store to approximately 50,000 square feet total. Currently, the Publix is the only grocery store on Daniels Island. One of the goals with the expansion is to keep the Publix open during the construction for the community. Therefore, as we continue to develop the new exterior facade, we are basing design decisions as well as constructability around the need for the store to remain open. Next slide, please. We would like to thank the board for their comments during the conceptual review. With the input from both the ARB and DRB, we continue to improve and develop the design. To summarize the board's comments from conceptual review, we were advised to restudy the entry awnings and if they are required, restudy the proportion of vertical siding and its relationship to the adjacent lattice regarding scale, restudy the existing tower and its inclusion in the overall building, consider glazing at the southwest corner, and then restudy the proportions of horizontal hardy plank along Island Park Drive and consider breaking it up more. As I move forward, I will point out where we've addressed these comments in the presentation. Next slide, please. We have currently submitted to the Daniels Island ARB and received preliminary approval with the following comments. Architecturally, to restudy the proportions at Island Park Drive as it relates to the new tower, pavilion, and 3 panels. The previous design with hipped roofs at the towers was preferred. The proposed glass block at the entries was not approved. To restudy the color palette and to also add holiday lighting per the Daniels Island Associate requirements. The landscape comments were to provide a street furniture plan in detail for review, provide details of the proposed wall and freeform planners for review, and suggest proposing an alternate species of the pawpaw tree. The current design that we are presenting does not reflect the comments from the ARB. We are looking to gather all feedback from both boards on the current design so we can have a clear direction as we move forward. Next slide. So here are two existing images of the current Publix. The upper image is the view as you approach the store from Island Park Drive, and the image in below is the existing tower and current entry to the Publix. Next slide. Here is the proposed existing floor plan for the Publix. To orient you, Island Park Drive is along the upper portion of your screen, and Seven Farms Road is paralleling it at the bottom portion of your screen. The existing tower is located in the bottom left corner of the floor plan. The building will expand towards Island Park Drive as shown in the next slide. Next slide, please. Here is the proposed floor plan for the new store, with Island Park Drive still being oriented along the top of the screen. The darker color shown on the floor plan is the expanded portion. As the building expands towards Island Park Drive, we are creating opportunities to connect the new store with the surrounding community. The plan hasn't changed much since conceptual review, other than the further development of the new park. Next slide. Here is the proposed roof plan. There will be some new equipment located on the expanded portion of the roof. The parapet heights at this location are the same height as the existing building, if not a little higher in certain locations. Next slide. This is the updated landscape and hardscaping plan. The new pavilion in the upper left corner will look out onto the new park with lots of colorful vegetation and a meandering path flanked by planter beds. There will be a low brick wall with iron fencing that will define the limits of the park while keeping it open and visible to Island Park Drive. Tabby oyster shells will be used at the walkways to connect Island Park Drive to the new tower. It will also be used at the low seating walls around the raised planter beds at the park. Concrete pavers are used at the pavilion seating area and at the store's entry. To get a better understanding of the overall park and the way it complements the new facade, can we go to the next slide? Here we've added some elements for the public to enjoy. We are providing a butterfly garden at the park. Trees, shrubs, and ground cover that attracts butterflies will be located mainly against the building and extend into the park and raised planters to create a cohesive landscaping experience. As you move from the pavilion through the park, we have added raised planters with perimeter seating. These free-formed shaped planters will be planted with trees, shrub, and ground cover to allow a pleasant seating experience for the customer as well as visitors to the park. We have also included a small stage in the center of the park for community involvement. This stage faces the pavilion, which will also double as seating for performances. The next slide, please. So we continue to pull inspiration from traditional Charleston architecture and elements and merge it with a low country aesthetic, as you will see in the next slide depicting the materiality of the building. Next slide, please. As we continue to develop the material palette, we have adjusted some of the materials based on the board's comments. Drawing inspiration from the baskets seen in the Charleston market, we have added materials that depict a modern interpretation of the basket weave. At the entries, we were proposing a glass block with a horizontal pattern, but we will look for alternative materials based on the ARB comments. In the center of the screen, there's an artisan panel. At Island Park Drive, we have chosen this laser cut metal accent panel with an abstract weave pattern to replace the horizontal hardy plank at this facade. Next slide. These are the proposed fixtures and exterior furniture. Next slide. So based on the board's comments to restudy the tower, awning, lattice, and glazing, here are the updated renderings. The upper image is a view of the approach to the site from Island Park Drive, showing the hipped roof removed at the new tower. The image below is a perspective along Island Park Drive. We've applied the same 3-bay language along the front. to break up the Island Park Drive facade. Along Island Park Drive, located in the center, we have created the same 3-bay rhythm and have added a series of artisan metal panels into the 3 bays. To further elaborate on these panels, they are a 2D metal panel cut through to create negative space and achieve a woven pattern. These panels will be offset from the facade to add both visual interest along Island Park Drive and also act as a backdrop to the butterfly garden along the edge of the building. Next slide. Okay, so these are the front elevations, and to orient you, the existing tower is located to the right and the new tower at Island Park Drive is located to your left. We revisited both of these towers to determine whether the hipped roofs were necessary. Looking at the existing tower with the hipped roof, we felt that by removing the roof, it helped to downplay the existing tower. We also removed the roof at the new tower on Island Park Drive and reworked the proportions of the facade. Removing both of these hipped roofs, we felt created a hierarchy that helped add dominance to the new entry. Looking back at the existing tower, based on the board's request to add glazing, when we removed the roof, we also reevaluated the materiality of this tower so that it was more cohesive with the overall facade. Therefore, we've foregoed adding the glazing at this location. Next slide, please. So the upper image is a rendering of the entry and exit arcade, showing the awning only over the new entry. Per the board's previous comment, we reevaluated if the awning over the exit was necessary. By removing the awning at the exit, it shifted the focus to the single awning over the entry. We also changed the material of this awning so that it looked lighter and more sleek to be more cohesive with the facade. The bottom 2 images are as you approach, well, they're both of the existing tower, and the bottom left image is the approach from 7 Farms Road. Next slide. So these are additional renderings of the front elevation. The upper one is showing a more close-up view of the entry and exit. And then the bottom one is showing a more overall view with the towers or the hipped roofs removed at the towers. The next slide, please. And then these are renderings of the Island Park Drive facade, showing again the new metal panels at the center of the building and the hipped roof removed at the top, and then the low brick wall that we're proposing along the perimeter of the garden or park. Next slide, please. And then this is a view from I-526. Not much has changed here other than the removal of the hipped roofs. Next slide. And then these are the updated elevations showing more detail. This is the front elevation, again, compared to the previously submitted design. And then if we could go to the next slide. This is Island Park Drive again. You can see the 3-bay rhythm. And then the next 2 slides, which will be the rear of the building, and the following one is the existing side of the building. Minimal changes will be made to these elevations other than a material upgrade to match the new design. So for the sake of time, the remainder of the presentation is the wall sections and civil drawings. If you have any questions, we can go to those. And we thank you for allowing us to present the progress on this project, and we welcome your feedback.
Thank you so much. Any questions from the board?
I had one, maybe a couple questions. Maybe go back to the roof plan, David. And for some reason, the drawing I had, the roof plan didn't show up or is not showing up. So this is the first time I've kind of seen that. Yeah, I think it's the next plan.
Yeah.
If you could zoom in to just the new addition. Yeah, okay. I'm just looking at the new fan HVAC units on the upper left side. Just kind of curious from the applicant's perspective, is there a way that they could organize some of these units that might be more visible from 526? I'm thinking about the ones that are particularly around the perimeter, closer to the new tower, new pavilion.
We could definitely look into that. The parapet at that front tower is higher than the proposed one, but, or than the previous one, but it's definitely something we could look into.
And then another question on some of the lighting cut sheets, Dennis.
Mhm.
or David? Yeah, right there, yep. This, could you point out where this, the one on the top row in the third one that's labeled security lighting, where does
Yes.
that live on the project?
Those will be present at the ATM. They mount two up underneath the ceiling for security reasons. So that's where those two will be.
Great.
And
Okay,
I can point out on the front facade if you would like to see where the ATM is.
yeah, that'd be helpful.
Okay.
Elevation and perspective.
David, you could go to the next one maybe.
Mhm.
So the new ATM, well, here, go to the elevation. It's probably easier for me to point it out there. Okay, so it will be located between where section cut 3 is. To the right of it, behind that column, is actually where the ATM will.
Right
Nope.
here.
Sorry, next column over.
To the left.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
No, sorry, excuse me. It's actually, I think it's behind the farthest over column after section 2. Yes, it'll be there.
Okay. And then maybe, you might, it looks like the material palette's evolved a little bit. Maybe if we could zoom into this elevation, that elevation that you were at, David, and just kind of describe the materials, what's happening with, looks like a lighter brick. Maybe start over on the right-hand side and talk about materials from the old tower to the, say, this 3-bay thing on the far left. Could you
Of course.
walk through these materials?
Of course. So at the existing tower, we're gonna, the surround around the horizontal hardy accent in the center will be white brick. And then along the B line of the building, as you move across, it's gonna be the dark gray black brick. And then at the two entrances, or at the entry and the exit arcades, there's hardy plank above, and the columns will be white brick. And then as you go to the glass block that we were proposing is over, yes, it's like at the arcades. And then as you go to the left, like I said, the B line of the building will be the dark gray brick with the horizontal insets of hardy, same as the tower on the left. The next little area that's showing the hardy above, that's actually white brick beyond.
On the far left.
You could keep going, oh, yeah, right there, the hardy above with the white brick below. And then the end tower is white hardy with white brick for the columns.
Okay, so in between the dark brick and the new tower, what you're calling the new tower, it looks like, okay, on the bottom, I've got maybe underneath the canopy, what is that material? And then I wish I could point. I can't, maybe
Here.
That material, that's white brick.
I can point. Watch it. This right here
Right there,
is, what is that?
white brick.
Okay, what is that?
Hardy plank, white hardy plank.
And what is that?
That is white brick again.
Are they all in the same plane?
No, so the bottom two, the white brick towards the base of the building and the hardy panel above, or the board and bat above, is in the same plane. And then that one at the top is actually beyond. So
Got
it actually aligns with where the tower is located.
Got it. And then one more question, sorry.
Of course.
The old tower, what's happening in the floor plan?
The floor plan, we are closing in the, that's where the entry and exit was. So we are closing in the entry and exit, and we are building it out so it looks like these 3 bays.
Right, and what is happening in the floor
Oh,
plan?
on the floor plan, there is the employee lounge, I believe there.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Haley.
You're welcome.
Helpful.
Any other questions?
Erica, this is Dino. So could we go back over just one more time, Daniel Island ARB comments?
Sure. David, do you have them in the presentation or no?
Yeah, I'm getting to them.
Okay.
I've kind of summarized them.
Let's see,
Mm,
this one, right? Yeah.
Correct. So the first one was to restudy the proportions at Island Park Drive as they relate to the new tower, pavilion, and 3-accent panel. The second one was that they didn't approve the glass block that we were proposing over the entries. And then the third was to restudy the color palette and then add the holiday lighting. And I think that was it. We've also received, like I said, the landscape comments, which
Oh,
aren't
and then-
included in the presentation.
There's some comments here too.
Mhm.
If you can read these, is that too small? Let me zoom in.
Yeah, can you zoom in? While we're on this elevation, I see this one that says reduce scale of panels to relate to other forms on this elevation or introduce windows, kind of in the same vein of the questions earlier about what's happening in the plan at this section, at that zone.
That is the prep area for the deli.
Okay. And then this, where the awning is over there and there's windows to the left of that area, is that produce area? Is that what, did I read the plan right?
Correct. That is the produce sales area.
Okay.
Any other questions, Dinos?
No, ma'am, thank you.
Erin,
This is,
did you?
yes, sorry, this is Erin. I had a couple questions particularly about the garden area. And I believe, I just want to clarify, it looks like there are gates on all the entrances, so this will be a fully enclosed space.
The gates will remain open
Okay,
to
like,
welcome people in.
and have y'all looked at not putting gates, or is there a reason that they have to be there?
We can definitely look into it. We added it in a previous design, so it's definitely something to look into.
Okay, and then do we have like a full plant schedule? I didn't see it in this middle, but I might have missed it.
Yeah, there's one on the next page up.
It wasn't. Ah, okay.
It's pretty small. Let me zoom in on it.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, it's moving slow. I'm trying to get further in. Here we go. Can you see all that?
Yes, thank you. That's all the questions I have. If you can just keep it on this for a minute so I can look through it. I don't have other questions if others do.
Any other questions?
This is Michelle. I just want to understand the Daniel Island ARB's comment about the glass block. Can you remind us, or really me, what the prior material at this location in the design was? It
So-
looked like a lattice type of system.
It was, we were looking for something that would create that basket weave. As we started to develop it, we decided to go with a glass block there. That what we were proposing was a horizontal kind of striated pattern that we would turn 90 degrees every other block to create a weave, a very minimal weave at the entry that would create some interest to achieve that basket weave pattern. Before we were looking at like a different like lattice or something along those lines, but yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay, we will now enter the public comment period. We did not receive any emails or letters, but we do have 2 people registered to speak. The first is council member.
Hey, good evening. How are y'all doing?
Good.
I just want to express how much the residents of Daniel Island have been begging for years for Publix to expand, and rightfully so. We all know the island has grown exponentially, and the current Publix simply does not support the island's vision of residents, visitors, and businesses having everything right at their fingertips and easily accessible. And if you go into this Publix, it's the most wonderful store with the most amazing employees, and they've done absolutely everything they can with their current footprint, and they just simply cannot do anymore. Prior to the last meeting at which Publix appeared before y'all, there was overwhelming support for the design, including from Daniel Island ARB, and most importantly, from the people who are going to see and use this store day in and day out. When you look at what currently exists versus the proposed, you can only imagine how excited we are. Publix has absolutely gone above and beyond, and I want to acknowledge that. I agree with the Daniel Island ARB's conditions and feel the city should align with those. This has been going on for years, and I just encourage us to agree it's time to allow Publix to service properly the Daniel Island community, which is what all parties desire, and to get this project moving.
Thank you very much. The second member of the public, I don't, may have registered for the wrong project. Tony Daniel, I don't believe he signed on. David, have you seen him?
Yeah, I don't see
Okay.
his, he didn't give me his phone number, so
Okay.
I don't see him on here.
Okay, so the public comment period will be closed. David, if you could please give staff recommendations.
Sure, thank you. Staff comments. Number 1, this project has come a long way since the first design concepts were presented in 2017, and staff compliments the efforts of the design team. Staff agrees with the Daniel Island ARB about choosing another material other than glass block at the front entry, and to also raise the ceiling height in the entry tower to the top of the columns. We agree with their comment about using louvers or shutters in place of the glass block to let light into the space, into the entryway. The previous board comments was in regards to the proportions and scale of the previously proposed lattice above the entry in relation to the adjacent siding. And the glass block that replaced the lattice looks to be near the same proportions and scale of the lattice. So we like the idea of the shutters or louvers or an alternate material to glass block. Number 3, the center hardy wall on the northwest facade was replaced with 3 metal accent panels, which helps to break down the mass and add interest. Number 4, staff feels the roof forms on the towers work well in establishing hierarchy with the entrances. Perhaps if the roof pitches matched closer to each other, it would help tie them together more closely. Number 4, staff supports the revision to the corner southeast tower and the improvements made to it without adding windows into the office spaces. Number 6, although staff and board have stated at the last review that we approved of the gray and white color palette proposed, the Daniel Island ARB is suggesting a warmer color palette and has pointed out that the adjacent buildings in the shopping center have recently been repainted and use the existing color scheme, which they have asked DRB to consider in the proposed color scheme that complements the adjacent buildings. If I could, I'm going to go to the end here. I'd also like to point out that the photos that the applicant used at the beginning of the presentation were a little bit outdated, and the pictures I'm about to show you are more recent. This was actually given to me by Daniel Island ARB of the colors that were just redone for both these buildings. But I was noticing that there are some grays and whites in this palette as well, although I'm seeing some tones that have a little bit of green in it as well. And then beyond these, let me show you the photos that they took for us. I can go back to these if you want me to slow down, but these are very recent photos from just this past week. And I'll go through these. So, you know, I could see us agreeing that they should maybe tweak it a little bit to more closely complement the adjacent building. Staff comment number 7. Staff recommends making the existing tree symbols different than the proposed trees, such as not coloring them in or some kind of gray tone, just to distinguish between the two. Number 8, all proposed plants or plant groupings should have a label with the plant symbol and quality and quantity called out on the plan as well as on the plant list, please. Number 9, some of the plants specified, such as pawpaw trees, may be difficult to locate locally. Staff asks the applicant to verify plants specifically. Verify plants specified to make sure they'll be available. But at the same time, I could agree with Daniel on ARB just to replace the pawpaw tree with something else. Number 10, the applicants have replaced the pittosporum, the drift rose, and the needlepoint holly as the board had asked at the last review. Number 11, staff would like a better idea of what the clover-shaped freeform planter seat walls in the garden look like. If you could provide the color, the material, the texture, please provide a detail at the next review. Number 12, at the last review, the board had asked that the 4 back parking spaces by the garden have access to the garden area, but this was not provided. A few steppers through the planter beds could be provided to lead to the garden area off the sidewalk. Let me get to the site plan real quick. Sorry. Give me one moment here. Let's move a little slow. Oh, there we go. So I was going to suggest, you know, here's the 4 parking spots that they're asking to be able to access into the garden space. But there is this sidewalk here that leads to the service door, possibly just some steppers through this planting bed could be provided into the garden area. That's one suggestion, or to restudy that. That's all we had, and staff recommends preliminary approval.
Thanks, David. Haley, did you have anything you wanted to clarify or respond to?
I don't think so. Just thank you all for your time today.
Thank you. Okay, we are now in board discussion for any comments or a motion.
Erica, this is Jeff. Can I ask the applicant to kind of clarify what the seat walls are, the organic shape? What is the idea that they'll be constructed of? Is it masonry or?
Sure, yeah, thanks, Jeff. Haley?
Steve, do you want to describe the walls? I know we talked about.
Sure. So the walls are seat walls, so they're going to be low. They're going to be about 18 to 22 inches tall. We don't have a detail on that yet, but they are going to be tabby material. So the same tabby material that will be on the walk will be on the wall. The cap on the wall will be more of a cast stone cap. So it'll be a smoother material on top to be for sitting.
Steve, could you state your name for the record, please?
Sure. Steve Manley with Manley Land Design. We're the landscape architects.
Thank you.
One other clarification while we're looking at this. It's related somewhat to my previous question. So on the side where we have those 4 parking spaces that David mentioned connecting, does the fence wrap around that side, or is that side completely open as designed right now with just some vegetation between the lawn and the parking?
That side is just screened with vegetation. The fence just runs across Island Park Drive.
But there's no, as it stands, no proposed like pedestrian connection from those parking spaces into that park right now.
There is no planned connection right now, but we could certainly offer that. We were trying to screen off the back side of that service drive and that backside.
And then one other thing, there's like a largish square above the parking. Is that some type of utility at the fence where the fence ends? It looks like, yeah.
It is. It's an existing transformer.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you for questions, at least.
Any other comments?
Oh, yeah, we are in comment.
We are.
I wanted to just generally say that I'm really pleased, just especially with this land plan over here. This is really exciting. So Peter, good work to you and your team. I think there's been some good improvements on the design overall. I'm delighted to be kind of to the point where we can just talk about little things. I would hesitate while we're on this plan to connect the 4 parking spaces to the garden. I agree with screening the service parking spots. There's plenty of on-street parking to access this butterfly without bringing public into this more dedicated service area. So I'd love to hear other people's perspective on that, but for me, I'd rather not encourage a connection there. Okay. Then.
Go ahead, Jeff. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Andy. I'd love to hear your opinion or thoughts.
Well, I mean, I don't think it needs to be as formal as the other connections, but I think if you were to maybe just make some space with some stepping stones, I think that could be enough, because people are going to park back there and use it. I mean, I know that that is more of a service area, and that's what I'm saying, not make, a real formal gesture to it, but just something, that kind of includes those 4 spaces that are adjacent to this area. I mean, it is intended for overall use, and those are spaces that are directly adjacent, whereas, the other spaces maybe are not so focused into this area.
Mm.
And then just generally, from a plant selection type, I think that the pawpaw trees probably that needs a different, needs to substitute that pawpaw, and probably the feather bush and the TT plants those are kind of lowlands, kind of wetland edge species that I'd be a little bit hesitant to use in an environment like this.
I'm sorry, Jeff, can you repeat those second 2? I'm sorry, Andy.
The feather bush and the TT plant that they've got specified. I think those are all 3 plants that probably need to look for some substitutes on. And I'm a little concerned with with how prominent the inkberry is and the 3-gallon size on it. I think the plant is good. It's just, these are very slow growing plants. And I'm a bit concerned with, how, using them in that screen with that wall, that, we get a 3-gallon plant in there and it kind of stays at that size for an extended period. We're not getting what we're looking for out of it. Maybe go up in size or see if there's a size available. I know it's kind of 3-gallon and 7-gallon these days. The old 5 gallons are kind of out of the trade, and just just a little concerned with how prominent they are and kind of how small we're specifying them in. Then I kind of am with Aaron on the gates. You know, I understand the gesture, but I think if we're going to use them, either they're pinned open so they remain open or they're removed. You know, I'm interested, and I'm also interested in the construction detail of the benches. You know, we're kind of, you know, I understand the exterior materials, but how are we putting it together and how successful is that going to be? Yeah, I don't want to hold the deal up, but you know, I would like to have some better understanding of what these are at the next level. You know, if it's just a staff, you know, at staff review, and kind of let Aaron and I see those details, that would be great. As far as I'm concerned, I don't want to, you know, create any sort of formal resubmittal, but you know, that is kind of this important gesture in there that seems fairly like it's still kind of hanging out there.
Anything else, Andy?
I think I'm done. Just looking to see if I saw anything else that kind of popped out at me, but I think that's kind of all my comments.
Yeah, I agree with you and Aaron's comments on the gates. You know, it's not a secured fenced area with a full perimeter fencing. So I think, you know, it looks nice along Island Park Drive, but I think the removal of the gates would enhance it. Any other comments or motion?
Well, I've got a couple architectural comments, just gonna talk through, and it's more food for thought. And if we could go to that Island Park Drive elevation. Well, this is a good one. We can just stop there to the precedence, the next one up.
Sorry.
Yeah, this one. I love, this is a good page. I think it has a lot of really good parallels. And I guess when we first saw the submittal in terms of the glass block material, this center image, the one that's actually kind of on top of all the other images of the one of the market here in the middle with the green umbrella and the blue umbrella, that louver there is extremely traditional to Charleston. It pops up everywhere, and it's a very simple expression. And I'd encourage you, yeah, right there too, right? The slave market, and then on the market. Those are two good things that are just traditional and prevalent. And if I were to encourage you to do something over the glass block, I would encourage you to do that. I think it's very fitting. I thought that's what we were kind of looking at the last time. So then let's go back to the Island Park Drive elevation, if you don't mind. Yeah. I don't know if it's worthy of change. It's just interesting, the what we're calling the pavilion next to the new tower. There used to be a rhythm of like a hip roof on top of the new entry, a hip roof on top of the new tower, and a hip roof on top of the pavilion, so that those three things kind of aligned with each other. And that might be what's getting what ARB, Daniel Island ARB might be touching on. Just some, is there some benefit of having some consistency on rooftops with that pavilion? One sketch suggestion, and it's more of a suggestion to study, is would the pavilion benefit from like a flat roof parabited thing where the hip roof can die into it? All little minor things. And this 3-bay thing, which is in the deli area, should the landscaping, I mean, this seems really tall. Those insets are really tall. And is it properly scaled for the garden that it serves? And could the landscaping respond better to those 3 insets so that it downplays the scale some? I'm I wonder too if the screening might be a little, I think the screening's interesting, but are the openings of the screen itself a little too small to really read from this distance and at that scale? That's more of a question, like I said, food for thought. I'm kind of rambling here on thoughts that I would look at if this were my project. And overall, I do want to emphasize that this is a really good design solution. I really like where it's going. I think it's going to benefit the community, not only from a grocery standpoint or service standpoint, but I think from a community insertion. I think it's a really good thing. I really appreciate the windows over here in the produce department. I really appreciate the pavilion, and this butterfly garden's a great addition. Maybe go back to the front elevation or some of those perspectives at the front parking lot. This works. The top left picture, I don't know what to do about it, but these awnings and these coverings that cover, I guess they're more for people than they are for the building. Oftentimes with canopies, you have canopies cover windows, but this is covering a pathway, I guess. And I think the last time we had the conversation here, we were talking about putting windows under the old tower, and that would help activate that. It's a very blank wall from the corner where that person's standing to the exit on that top right elevation. Thank you for entertaining my thoughts. But as I said, I think they're all just things that I would study as I progress from preliminary to final. I don't know if they're necessarily directives or just thoughts. And in closing, I'd like to say that I agree with the ARB's perspective about colors and trying to warm up the color tones.
Thanks, Jeff. Any other comments or motion?
I'll weigh in here. This is Michelle. I do appreciate the applicant's entertainment of our prior comments, and I do think that the design has really only been further strengthened and has come a long way. I do like the idea of the garden as well. I think that is a gift back to the community that I can see being very activated by the residents and folks that come to shop in this shopping center. I do like the palette that is presented. It's sophisticated, but I can understand the local ARB's concerns about it blending in with the existing. That's always the challenge. But you also don't want it to subvert to a dated color palette either. That's the tenuous relationship there. But I think that you can come up with something successful that everyone will appreciate. I do think that the scale of the glass block could be improved with with a different material. I think that the prior comment, if I remember correctly, was just adjusting what those two textures meant and how they related to each other. But I do think that a glass block product will not be as airy and diaphanous as something as a lattice or a louver that allows air to transfer. So I can see how that comment may warrant some restudy. And I do appreciate. I think that if we go back to the other elevation that we were looking at that shows that pavilion and tower sequence, I know that we had discussed the function of the towers at the previous submittal, if I recall, and that the idea of the roof, using the roof as a device to signify the entry, I felt was an important discussion. So I'm going to let the designer make that interpretation, but I do think that it's most appropriate that the existing tower be stripped of its entry significance because it's no longer the entry. And in this regard, this new tower is really a sign. It's really a sign for the shopping center. So I think that I think that some good valid comments have been made, and it'll really be up to the designer to take the direction and the and our interpretations, but I think that you're on the right path. That's all I had.
Any other comments or motion? You're being awful quiet.
Well, I think there's been a tremendous amount of thoughtful comment. And as I've shared before, I always struggle when there's an overlap of review boards that are looking at the same project. And I think the Daniel Islands ARB was very thoughtful also in the manner that they responded. I'm certainly willing to defer to my colleagues' emotion.
Anyone ready to make a motion?
I think most of the comments that we've all talked about have been addressed in the Daniel Island ARB from an architectural standpoint. So I'd be happy to make a motion, and you guys can kind of help me craft it as we move forward. But I'd like to make a motion for preliminary approval with staff comments. And I think I have them 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 2, 4, 6 through 12. And correct me if that's not right. Some of these were.
I think you can remove 10 just because it's making a statement that some comments were addressed.
Thank you. And some board comments to either eliminate the gates or permanently have the gates opened and provide, and that's number 1. Number 2 would be provide the detailing of the gate at final review. Number 3 is the adoption of Daniel Island ARB comments. And Andy, was there some more landscape comments?
I think that if you add, substitute pawpaw.
We already got that, I
Feather
think.
bush. Yeah, Daniel, I think staff comment was, to look at, but in addition, the feather bush and the TT plant.
Or say those again, Andy. The feather.
The feather bush.
Okay. And what was the second one?
Is TT plant. Also to study the size of the inkberries being put in.
Is it inkberries?
Inkberry plant. And I know that there's a comment about detailing of the planters, so I'll let David handle that appropriately.
Okay.
So I guess that's it.
Great. So
Does that conclude everything, Jeff?
Yes, that was, yes.
So I have a motion for preliminary approval with staff comments 2, 4, 6 through 9, 11, and 12. And then board comments, 1, provide detailing of the fence and potential gates at final review. 2, eliminate or permanently open the gates. 3, adoption of the Daniel Island ARB comments. 4, find substitutions for the feather bush and the TT plant. Study, and 5, study the size of the inkberry plants at installation. Does that sound right, Jeff?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second this, Andy.
Thanks, Andy. I will now call roll. Michelle?
Yes, in favor.
Dinos?
Yes, in favor.
Aaron?
Yes, in favor.
And I am also yes in favor. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, everyone.
We will now move on to item number 2, approval of the minutes from the February 16th, 2021 meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve. It's
Andy
Andy.
made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second. Jeff?
Thanks, Jeff. I will now call roll. Dinos,
Yes, approve.
Aaron,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes, in favor.
and then also myself, yes, in favor. And we are done.
Wonderful.
Great, very good.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right,
Bye,
take
Bye,
care,
Tori.
everyone.
Nice to meet you. Thank y'all.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.